In the name of the God who created us. In the name of the Christ who teaches us. In the name of the Spirit who journeys alongside us throughout our lives. Welcome home, children of God. Peace be with you. Good morning and welcome to First Presbyterian Church this morning as we gather together as God's people in God's name. I welcome all of you here, whether you're joining in person or online today. I am grateful for the gift of your presence. I would invite everybody to please take just a moment, and if you're here, if you'll sign those blue friendship registers on the inside of the aisle and pass them down. If you're at home, if you would please sign in the YouTube chat. As you probably know by now, every Sunday we tally up the number of people who are worshiping. We give $1 for everybody who is worshiping with us to a local or international ministry. Today is a fourth Sunday of the month, so our recipient today is Living Waters for the World. It is a joint venture with Presbyterian churches throughout Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Kentucky. We're all part of the Synod of the Living Waters. And Living Waters for the World helps to put clean water, solar-powered filtration systems throughout communities all over the world, including some right here in Carter County. So it's a great ministry. Your presence this morning helps to support that simply by showing up. So thank you for that. We are still in the middle of COVID. We are in the middle of a COVID spike right now in Carter County. So we do ask everyone who is here to please wear a mask. There are masks available in the back. There's hand sanitizer all around the church. We'll do passing of the peace from our seats so we can keep social distanced. There is a sign-up sheet in the back and out here. In the event that somebody who's here today turns out to be positive for COVID, we will try to get the word out to everybody through all of the church media channels, but if you want specifically to be called, if you'll leave your phone number out there, we'll make sure that you get a call in that event. We do have several folks this morning who are out with COVID, and so we ask you to keep them in our prayers. One of those is Loretta Bowers, who is going to be singing for us this morning. She'll join us another time. Keep her in your prayers. Instead, we have a very last-minute wonderful celebration to get to hear Teresa this morning, who was asked about 15 minutes ago. So thank you so much for pinch hitting, Teresa. We're grateful to have you and for your willingness to fill in at the last moment. Let's see. Harry Farthing's memorial service, hopefully everybody's gotten the word by now, that was moved from this past Wednesday. It's going to be on Wednesday, August the 10th. Here at the church, visitation at noon, memorial service at 1. So encourage you to join if you can for that. If you are here today and have not been downstairs, I really encourage you to check out the green table on your way out. It is chock full of some amazing stuff this morning. There's cucumbers, zucchini, squash, plants to take home, including basil and peppers, I'm not sure what else, mint, all kinds of wonderful stuff down there. Make sure you check that stuff out because it will not keep till next week, so it all needs to go home if we can. And if you're not familiar with the green table, I'd assume most of you are, but if you're not, if you have extra produce from your garden or extra plants to share, flowers, whatever, bring them. Then check out the green table every Sunday. Take home whatever you would like. There's a donation jar down there, and any donations you make go to the work of the peacemaking committee of this church. So you can just drop whatever you want to drop in that little bin, and that money goes there, and you get to take home fresh veggies, flowers, plants, whatever. It's a great, great thing that is done here. So thank you all for that. One more announcement, just a reminder that on August the 14th, Sunday, August the 14th, we are going to not meet here at church. We're going to meet down at Sycamore Shoals State Historic Site for our 11 o'clock worship service. That will be in the amphitheater there. We'll move to the pavilions there for a lunch at 12. That's in celebration of our 240th anniversary. So I hope many of you can make it. That service will not be live streamed, but your chance to, you can come spread out, really spread out in the amphitheater and make lots of room for social distancing. We'll be outdoors. We hope you can make it. We do ask everybody that's coming, even if you're a regular attendee here, if you would please RSVP about that, because the church is we're going to provide barbecue, and we need a head count for that so we know about how much to prepare. We hope that you all can help bring side dishes and things like that, but just to get a head count for what to plan for the meal. So just There's information in the bulletin. You can send an email to me or to Jessica or info at, I'll call and leave a voicemail, whatever. Just let us know. We'll keep a tally of that so we know how much food to have. Thank you all. Are there other joys, concerns, announcements? Have I missed anything? Kathy, yes, ma'am.
Just mentioning about the special offering that we'll be taking up for the Afghan family.
Thank you, yes. So I'll repeat that just over the mic so folks at home can hear as well. Starting today and running through about the middle or end of August, we are collecting a special offering. One of the projects our church is helping to support is an Afghan refugee family who is moving to the area. We're partnered with several other area churches in helping to provide relocation services, a home, language services, everything needed to furnish a home for this family who's relocating to the area in the next week or two. One of the things our church has committed to in that endeavor is to provide a washer and dryer for the family. The house is already set up, our apartment, so we're taking up a special offering. You can just, make your contributions to the church, just earmark them somehow on your check or in an envelope for Afghan refugee family. Reminded me I need to put a thing on our online giving to note that. So if you want to give online, you can go ahead and do that today and just send me a message that says we made a gift of X amount for Afghan. Otherwise, I'll get that note set up in our online giving portal. But if you would like to make a contribution to that, that's a project we're partnering with Covenant, Jonesboro Pres, and maybe several other churches too. And so there'll be lots of needs coming up, but that's one we have right now. So thanks a lot for that reminder, Kathy. Other announcements, joys, concerns, anything? Okay, then, friends, we begin this morning as we do every Sunday. As we move into the start of our worship, we always begin with the basic core of our gospel, and that is the reminder, the reassurance that God loves us all without condition and without exception. And in that love, we all reflect the image of God and our beautiful and miraculous diversity, because God's image is lesbian, gay, bi, trans, queer, and straight. God's image is black, brown, white, Asian, indigenous. God's image is male, female, and non-binary. God's image is rich and poor, young and old, able-bodied and disabled, suffering and rejoicing, because we all bear the image of God. We are all beloved and valued, so welcome, God's beloved community. We give thanks for this ancestral Cherokee land on which we are gathered today, for the loving waters of the Watauga and the Doe River watersheds that nourish us. And as we enter this time of worship, we pledge ourselves to work for truth and reconciliation among all peoples and respect for God's creation in all that we do. So let us worship God. Lucinda, lead us in our invitation to worship. One other thing, if you did not at the Johnson City Press, we were on the front page this week for our anniversary celebration. I've got a copy up here. I'll leave it on the communion table. Please check it out and take a look. And thanks to Jill Oxendine for getting this in there for us. Sorry, go ahead, Lucinda.
This morning I pray for my enemies. And whom do I call my enemy? An enemy must be worthy of engagement. I turn in the direction of the sun and keep walking. It's the heart that asks the question, not my furious mind. The heart is the smaller cousin of the sun. It sees and knows everything. It hears the gnashing even as it hears the blessing. The door to the mind should only open from the heart. An enemy who gets in risks the danger of becoming a friend.
I invite us to rise in body or spirit as we're able. We'll join together in singing hymn number 45, I to the hills will lift mine eyes.
From the Lord alone,
invite those of us who are here to take a moment and just greet one another, share the peace of Christ. If you are joining online, you'll get to see wonderful pictures of everybody. So let's take a chance and just visit.
Good morning. For our meditation today, we're going to be closing our eyes and wiggling back into our meditation posture. Should be a little familiar by now. So I invite you to do that and let your eyes gently close. We're going to be breathing today with love and peace, or peace and love, however it fits on your breath. Breathing in love, breathing out peace. I expect the mind will do its job and bring you some lovely thoughts. That's what it does. As you notice, come back to breathing love and peace. You might recall images of feeling love, or feeling peace. Stay with that feeling. Notice the world around you, the pew that you're sitting on, the sounds of the air conditioning. Feeling love, feeling peace. Distractions are always with us, and we always have the choice to return to this moment, breathing love, breathing peace. Noticing the silence, breathing love, breathing peace. You may want to call to mind people, places, creatures that need love and peace. Each time we choose stillness, it radiates from us to others. As we come to a close, be grateful. Grateful for the distractions. Grateful for your breath. Grateful for any revelations. Grateful for a moment of stillness. Remembering we always have the choice. Blessed be.
Today's reading is from Galatians 5, verses 1 through 10. For freedom, Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. Listen, I, Paul, am telling you that if you let yourselves be circumcised, Christ will have no benefit for you. Once again, I testify to every man who lets himself be circumcised that he is obliged to obey the entire law. You who want to be justified by the law have cut yourselves off from Christ. You've fallen away from grace. For through the Spirit, by faith, we eagerly wait for the hope of righteousness. For in Christ Jesus, neither circumcision nor uncircumcision counts for anything. The only thing that counts is faith working through love. You were running well. Who prevented you from obeying the truth? Such persuasion does not come from one who calls you. A little yeast leavens the whole batch of dough. I'm confident about you in the Lord that you will not think otherwise. But whoever it is that's confusing you will pay the penalty. But my friends, why am I still being persecuted if I'm still preaching circumcision? In that case, the offense of the cross has been removed. I wish those who unsettle you would castrate themselves.
Well, I'm certainly sorry Loretta is ill, but I'm also glad I can sing. Just a closer walk with thee, granted Jesus, hear my plea. Daily walking close to thee, let it be, dear Lord, let it be. I am weak, but thou art strong. Jesus, keep me from all wrong. I'll be satisfied as long as I walk. Let me walk close to thee. When my feeble life is o'er, time for me will be no more. Guide me safely, gently o'er to thy shore, dear Lord, to thy shore. Just a closer walk with thee, precious Jesus, hear my plea. Oh, to know
Thank you, Rebecca, for the meditation this morning. Lucinda, thanks for reading that interesting passage that we are going to talk about. I appreciate it. And Teresa, thank you so much. That was beautiful, and for filling in at the last minute and doing such a beautiful job with that. Appreciate you. So there's a really incredible TED Talk that I've used in churches a couple times before, and it's probably 15 years old at this point. If we had a way to show it in here, it's good enough that I would show you a portion of it this morning. But it's by a woman named Catherine Schultz. And so I encourage you to check it out sometime. Her name is Catherine Schultz, and the TED Talk that she gives is about just the simple idea of being wrong. And at one point in that, she poses a question to the audience. She says, what does it feel like to be wrong? She gives just a moment for people to think about it. And then she suggests to the audience that feeling wrong, or being wrong, feels exactly like being right. And her point is that when we turn out to be wrong about something, we don't know that we're wrong at the time. We think we're right, and so whether the facts or the evidence or whatever turn out to support us or to disprove us, in that moment, for us, right or wrong feels exactly the same. When my colleague group and we all got back together back in April, we do this, many of you know, we call ourselves the Heretics. We get together once or twice a year, and one of the things we do is to come up with a topic or a couple of topics, and then we all do some research and bring sermons to present to one another and critique and share on those agreed upon topics. And most of what we've done over the past 15 years we've been doing this has been to pick a book of the Bible and divvy up the chapters or something like that. But this past April, we went with a topical theme. And it was a theme suggested by Dave Holmes, my friend in northern Alberta, Canada. He's preached for us on video a couple times back when the pandemic started. And he suggested that that we did 2 topics this year, that one of those be defense against the dark arts. And his pitch for that topic centered around the idea that religion, or at least certainly the way that we practice religion, has a dark side to it. And it doesn't take too much looking around to figure out and see that dark side. All the ways that the church has used and abused power and hurt rather than uplifted people. Jesus may have taught and practiced a path of love and welcome and compassion and healing, but the church that followed Jesus has, at least at times, preached and practiced hatred of those who didn't conform, including imprisoning and executing those who refused to change their beliefs to match how those in power interpreted the Bible. And so this was his pitch, and we ended up coming up with 6 topics on the dark art of religion. A couple of them we've already explored this summer, although I didn't introduce them with kind of the background of why we picked them. But we've talked so far about the dark art of the church becoming an extension of the state, resulting in things like legislators and justices who use their own distorted personal biblical views to further their ideologies for everyone around them. We looked at how religion has used the idea of law and conformity to quell diversity and grace. This morning, we come to our 3rd topic in the series, and that's the dark art of certainty. And please know that I completely get the irony of saying this, but I am certain that being certain is a dangerous thing. And I am preaching against certainty this morning because of my own certainty that being certain is dangerous. With me? Okay, good. As I was writing the sermon this week, I kept getting distracted by news and images of the new James Webb Space Telescope. And I don't know if any of you all have followed that or looked at some of the images that have been coming out in the past week or so. It is a project that has been over 2 decades in the making since it was very first proposed. It launched earlier this year and just started sending images back to Earth this past week. That telescope captures infrared light and allows observers to see parts of the universe that go back to just 100 million years after the Big Bang. And I know 100 million years sounds like a long time to be after the Big Bang, but in terms of the cosmology and the length of time our universe has existed, for about 13.8 billion years, the James Webb Space Telescope allows scientists to look back 13.7 billion years in the past and see how the universe looked back then. And the really fascinating thing to me about this is that when you look back at infrared light captured from 13.7 billion years ago, what you're seeing is not only something that far in our past, but you are observing galaxies that are now about 46 billion light years away from us because of the expansion of the universe, of every part of the universe. So you're looking at something that now is further away from us than the age of the universe, looking back in time nearly 14 billion years ago. And I share that because it's one of those things that just captures my imagination in a way that nothing else really does. And it's so mind-boggling to me to think about what we're seeing, the expansiveness of the universe that we inhabit, that we're looking at stuff that is 46 billion light years away from us now. And that, to me, is the greatest experience of the divine that I can imagine. It reminds me of not only the vastness of our universe and what a tiny part of that we are, but how amazing it is that we are a part of this thing. The vastness of God and the universe and everything. And the reason I mention all that is because nothing else quells my sense of certainty about anything other than realizing what a vast, unimaginable universe we're a part of and what a tiny, tiny, tiny part of that I am. There's a great scene in the Disney movie, Bridge to Terabithia. Have any of y'all seen that? All right, at least one. Nice, Carol Ann, I'm glad. Okay, another Disney fan. Came out about 15 or so years ago, and is based on an older book than that. It's the story of a friendship between 2 fifth graders in rural Virginia. Jess and her new neighbor, Leslie. Jess and his new neighbor, her name is Leslie. Jess is from a fundamentalist Christian family, and Leslie is a religious free spirit. There's one scene in the movie where the 2 friends are headed to church along with Jess's little sister, Maybelle. And the preacher that Sunday, they're going to an old rural, I think it's a Baptist congregation. The preacher that Sunday fills the congregation with fear of hellfire and brimstone, and he is certain that anybody who has not followed the right religious path is going to have an eternity of fire. Leslie, the religious free spirit, who is herself inimitably curious, remarks to Maybelle, turns to her in the pews and says, "This whole Jesus thing is really fascinating." Maybelle, the younger daughter of Jess, turns to Leslie and says, "It's not fascinating, it's terrifying. It's nailing holes through your hand. It's because we're all vile sinners that God made Jesus die." "Do you really believe that's true?" asks Leslie. And Maybelle replies that she does believe it, and that you have to believe it because it's in the Bible, and that if you don't believe in the Bible, God will damn you to hell when you die. And then Leslie, and this is the fascinating part to me, Leslie waves her arms up toward the sky, and she says so confidently, "I seriously do not think that God goes around damning people to hell. He's too busy running all of this vast, magnificent universe." And that whole exchange between the 2 kids takes about a minute of the movie. But it raises a profoundly incisive question, I think. What kind of God do we believe in, and how certain are we that we're right about it? We finally get to that part that Lucinda read for us this morning. It was an excerpt from Paul's letter to the Galatians. It is probably the earliest writing in the New Testament. It precedes the Gospel of Mark, the earliest gospel, by probably about 25 or 30 years. And it's the earliest of Paul's letters that we have in existence. It was written early in Paul's ministry to a church that he helped found during an evangelical mission to the region of Galatia. And now, word has gotten back to Paul that this church in Galatia is in turmoil. So much so that they don't even want to show up together on Sunday mornings. They don't want to sit together in the same, of course, they didn't have sanctuaries, they met in people's houses, but they didn't all want to show up in the same house and sit around in community together. They were finding it difficult to be in worship or in fellowship together. They were held such animosity toward the other side of this issue, over which they are bitterly divided. Both sides are 1,000% certain that they're right and the people on the other side of the house or the other side of the room or that they disagree with are wrong. And the issue they're fighting about, which you probably gathered from the reading, is circumcision. Some of them insisted that if you wanted to become a Christian, you had to be circumcised and follow the Levitical law because it's right there in the Bible. Because that's what Jewish people had done for years. It's what Jesus did, after all, we presume. Others were insisting that that kind of requirement was both prohibitive and for potential members and superfluous to boot, because it was no longer necessary. Paul's response, and I am not making this part up, it was the last line that Lucinda read. Paul's response was to write and tell them that if they were going to argue about circumcision, and if it was going to cause rifts and arguments between them, and even separation, then perhaps, and I quote here, the whole thing should just be cut off. That is in the Greek. I'm not joking about this part. Paul says if you're going to argue about cutting off the tip, just cut the whole thing off and be done with it. You get some things in the Bible that don't always make the English translation, but it's in there, I promise. And that joke is not mine, it's Paul's, by the way. And he is frustrated with them because of their respective certainty over this issue, that they are willing to let go of loving each other and instead vilify another person over this issue that, to Paul, from standing back a way, says it's really not that important. I was going to say it's really not that big, but then I thought that might have been a distasteful joke, and so I'm not making that one, and that is my joke. But I imagine many of us have things in our lives that we are passionate about, things that we devote a good amount of our time and our mental energy, perhaps even our resources, our material resources to. I mean, if you were to ask me about one of my hobbies, you'll probably get a lot more information than you want. And I know that church itself may or may not be one of those things that occupies a lot of that kind of mental energy. But for many of us, the kind of deep philosophical and religious questions that church at least proposes to address, those things might be deeply important to us. Questions like, how did we get here? What is our purpose in life? What happens after we die? How should we live, and by what values? Those are worthwhile questions to consider. The dark art to look out for is when the church or any institution or person purports to know the answers to that with certainty. And I think the dark art to look out for in ourselves is perhaps no different. Last Sunday I was at a conference or festival. It's called Wild Goose. It's a big, there were about 1,500 people there. Outdoor festival held every year for about the last 15 or so years. And it was started by Brian McLaren and some others. He's the author of the book we're currently reading in Thursdays with Jesus. The people that go there are, I would say, about 25 to 30% progressive ministers, church leaders, and the rest are either progressive-leaning people of faith or people who have left the church entirely, left it behind, and are looking for some kind of connection or community and that is centered around something spiritual and believe this to be a place to try and seek that. It's a fascinating community to be a part of for a few days and be in conversation with people around. And one of the speakers there is an author I've read before. His name is Peter Enns. And he's got a book titled The Sin of Certainty. And in the very first chapter of that, he writes that our beliefs about God, which is to say our thoughts about God, are precious to us because they give us a sense of who we are and our place in this chaotic world. And we often can't imagine any other way of being us. And so when our beliefs are threatened, the instinct, understandably, is to guard them fiercely, to resist any movement for as long as possible to make the stress go away, and to stay in the comfort of our familiar spiritual homes. But in resisting growth, change, exploration, we may actually be missing an invitation to take a sacred journey, where we let go of needing to be right and trust God regardless of what we feel we know or don't know. So what is our defense against the dark art of certainty? And as pithy as it sounds, I know, one defense, I think, is to not only know what we know, but to know what we don't know. One way of knowing what we don't know is to not be afraid of asking questions, of learning, of exploring, and maybe most importantly, to not be afraid of being wrong. In grade school, most of us probably learned facts, things that we can say with certainty, like, at least when I was in grade school, could say 1 + 1 = 2, or tell you what the 9 planets in the solar system were. Yeah, right? But you keep learning and being open to new information and growth and change. And more you learn that, for example, there are plenty of mathematical examples where 1 + 1 does not equal 2. Maybe we're not in a base 10 number system. Maybe we aren't using enough significant digits. Thanks to continued space exploration, like the James Webb Telescope and other things, there are way more than 9 planets in our solar system if we consider dwarf planets and all of those other bodies in the Kuiper Belt. We even once thought we were the center of the universe and that God created everything else to orbit around us. Now, again, renewed this week, I don't know how we can look at the cosmos, see what we are seeing from the James Webb Telescope and other things like that, and imagine the worlds and the possible life in those distant stars, and still come away with any certainty about this magnificent universe. For me, I have increasingly grown to see that certainty is not a sign of a deeper spirituality, as I once thought it was, but instead may be the enemy of a deeper spirituality. Inquisitiveness and honest searching have led me further and further away from any kind of certainty of what I think I might know about God, the universe, anything. But I also know that in leaving that behind, I've found instead an ever-deepening connection with something far greater than I ever imagined God to be before. A deeper connection with the universe, the divine, with the people around me, with the world, with God. But it all starts with being okay about being wrong. Blessed be. Amen. Let's take an opportunity to express our gratitude and thanksgiving for communities like this as we have a chance to share from our own resources and our tithes and offerings. And let's see, I know Loretta's not here. Teresa, are you singing again? You playing, Roddy? Or something? Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Let's receive our tithes and offerings. I invite us to remain standing as we're able, and we'll sing our closing hymn is number 687, Our God, Our Help in Ages Past. It's a paraphrase of Psalm 90. The hymn text was written by Isaac Watts in, 1719. So the text of the hymn is over 300 years old. The text of the psalm, a couple thousand years old. But it captures, to me, this whole idea of this miraculous, vast, beautiful creation we're a part of, and not claiming things with certainty, but just finding peace and rest in God. So I invite us to sing together.
For you.
They're written below the staff.
Time like an ever-rolling stream is all our years away. They fly forgotten as a dream dies at the opening day. Our God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come. Be thou our guide while life shall last, and our eternal home.
Beloved siblings in Christ, there are a lot of things we don't have to be certain of, but we can be certain of the love and the joy of this community that we are a part of. What an amazing place for comfort and safety and sustenance and nurture it is, and give thanks for that. As you go out from here today, this week, this month, whatever life holds for you, may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind blow always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of her hand. Amen.